Have you ever heard of a guide to strategy so powerful that it's still being studied today by everyone from military leaders to business executives? Well, that's Miyamoto Musashi's The Book of Five Rings. It was written way back in 1645, and it is an absolute masterpiece that goes so much deeper than just sword fighting, offering these incredible lessons on what it truly means to achieve mastery.
So the book was written by this man, Miyamoto Musashi, a legendary Japanese swordsman who was reportedly undefeated in over 60 duels. I mean, can you imagine? And in the last few years of his life, he literally retreated to a cave to write down all the principles that made him invincible, not just for other warriors, but for anyone, anywhere who wants to master their craft.
And this right here, this is the core idea that just elevates the entire book. Musashi was convinced that if you can truly, deeply understand one fundamental thing, you can unlock the knowledge to understand 10,000 other things. It's all about seeing the big picture in the tiny details.
So what is this book exactly? In Japanese, it's called Go-Rin no Sho, and it's a guide to strategy at its purest. Musashi's whole approach is famously no nonsense. He had no time for fancy, impractical techniques. He was all about what actually works, whether you're facing one person or an entire army. He broke down his teachings into 5 scrolls, or rings, each named after an element, and we're going to journey through each one. We'll start with the Book of Earth, which is our foundation. Then we'll move to water for flexibility. After that, it's fire for the heat of combat, wind for understanding your rivals, and we'll end with the void, the ultimate state of mind. All right, let's dig in with that first scroll, the Book of Earth. This is where Musashi lays it all out, the fundamental laws of strategy. You can think of this as the bedrock that everything else is built on. And Musashi had this brilliant way of explaining it. He said, the way of strategy is a lot like being a master carpenter. You can't just start building a house. First, you have to know your tools, you have to understand the blueprints, and you absolutely have to lay a solid, unshakable foundation before you can build anything that will last. And that foundation is held up by these 9 core principles. And just look at these. They aren't just for samurai, are they? They're really a blueprint for a life of purpose. Think about know the ways of all professions. That's about having a wide-ranging curiosity about the world. Or, my personal favorite, do nothing which is of no use. What a powerful call for focus in our cluttered lives. Now, of all these core principles, Musashi hammers one home more than any other: timing. He believed that understanding the rhythm of a situation, knowing exactly when to act and when to wait, is the single most important part of any strategy. If you get the timing wrong, you're not using strategy, you're just guessing. Okay, so we've laid our foundation. Now let's move to the second book, the Book of Water. This is all about taking that solid base and learning how to make it fluid, flexible, and totally adaptable. The idea here is so simple but so deep. A strategist, he said, must be like water. Think about it. Water doesn't have its own shape. You pour it into a cup, it becomes the cup. You pour it into a riverbed, it becomes the river. It always finds the most efficient path. Your strategy needs to be just like that, able to conform to any situation you find yourself in. But to be that adaptable, your inner state is key. Musashi taught that a balanced spirit leads to a balanced body. If you can stay calm and centered on the inside, even in the middle of total chaos, you don't reveal any weaknesses. There's no opening for an opponent to exploit. So the real trick is mastering this mental state. Now, don't confuse being calm with being passive. Not at all. This is about a calm determination. Your mind stays clear and quiet, even as your actions are decisive and incredibly powerful. All right, now we get to the really fun stuff, the application. We're going to look at the next 2 books together, Fire and Wind, because they deal directly with the dynamics of a real conflict, how you handle the heat of the moment, and how you understand the person standing opposite you. The Book of Fire is all about what to do when things get real. It's pure, in-the-moment tactics. Musashi talks about reading the situation, using the environment to your advantage, and creating disadvantages for your enemy. You know, timeless advice like taking the high ground, that's classic Book of Fire wisdom. A huge concept in this section is about getting the jump on your opponent. Musashi lays out a couple of key ways to do this. The first is to go on the offensive with a direct, aggressive attack to seize control. But the second way is a little more subtle. You can actually wait for the initiative by pretending to be weak, baiting your opponent into making a mistake, and then, bam, you capitalize on the opening they just gave you. Then we have the Book of Wind, which is fascinating. It's basically a 17th century guide to competitive analysis. Musashi was adamant that you can't perfect your own way of doing things if you don't deeply understand how others operate. You have to know their strengths, their weaknesses, their habits. You have to know their playbook better than they do.
And this brings us to the final and most philosophical part of the journey. After you've mastered the foundation, the flow, and the fight, Musashi introduces us to a higher state of being, the Book of the Void.
So, what on earth is the void? I know, it sounds a little mystical, maybe even empty. But Musashi's idea of the void is actually very specific and incredibly powerful. It's the ultimate goal of all the training we've just talked about. The void isn't about emptiness in a bad way. It's that perfect state of flow, that zone of pure intuition where you stop thinking and just do. It's like a great athlete who isn't consciously thinking about the next move. Their body just knows. Your knowledge is so deeply ingrained that your mind and body act as one, spontaneously and perfectly. It is effortless mastery. Musashi explains it with this very cool, almost Zen-like puzzle. He says that once you have completely mastered all the tangible things, the techniques, the strategies, the things that exist, you suddenly gain access to a whole new level of perception. You can begin to understand the intangible, the intuitive, that which does not exist in the physical world. This all leads to his final teaching, that the spirit becomes nothingness. And again, that doesn't mean it disappears. It means the mind is finally free from all the junk that holds us back: ego, fear, doubt, hesitation. It's a state of pure clarity and purpose. And for Musashi, achieving this state was the true path to being invincible. And all of this leaves us with one final question to think about. In our modern world, with all of its noise, notifications, and constant distractions, what would it actually mean for you to apply these principles? To build your own solid foundation, to learn to be as adaptable as water, and to ultimately find that state of clear, focused, intuitive action, to find your own personal void.